Hey folks, what's up? How's it going? It's Ryan here. Today we're going to go over my 3 tiers of coffee gear, from an introduction or just budget-friendly option to an intermediate and aesthetically pleasing option, and finally to the advanced option that I'm currently still working on building. And we're not going to talk about espresso today because it's just a really big topic, so let's just jump right into our first list, the budget-friendly and introductory set. So if you're thinking about just getting into coffee and you haven't really committed a large piece of money to it, I find that these are great starting options. You can keep them forever. A lot of people don't really need to upgrade beyond this point. So it's not like you're missing out on any quality here. It's just maybe not the most aesthetically pleasing, or maybe could make minor adjustments to make it a little bit better here and there. But this is a really great way for people to spend a little bit of money and make a really great cup of coffee with it. First up, we have the Bodum gooseneck kettle. I actually had this one when Joe and I first started dating, so you don't really need anything else beyond this unless you're looking to get into temperature control. It's about $75 Canadian, and it is a reasonably priced kettle, considering a lot of gooseneck kettles can go upwards of 100 and even more. And because this is the budget-friendly set, we're just gonna go a classic kitchen scale. You don't need any type of special scale to make coffee. One that goes to 0.1 grams is preferred, and you can find something like that on Amazon for about 20 bucks. So if you don't want to spend money on a scale that has a timer, you can always just set a timer on your phone. Next, we got the Brewer. This is probably the best bang for your buck when it comes to buying coffee equipment. A plastic Hario V60 is very cheap. They're about $20 for a plastic brewer. They're not the prettiest, but they work amazing. Never really need to upgrade a plastic Hario V60 because they're durable. A lot of people just really love this shape of brewer as well. So if you're looking to get into coffee, this is a great way to learn how to make a pour over at a standardized shape. And finally, the biggest purchase of getting into specialty coffee is a grinder. A grinder is probably gonna make up the most important and biggest part of your budget. I really like the Bodum Bistro coffee grinder. For its price at about $115, it's gonna hold up really well. It does everything that you need it to do. It has a nice clean storage system. There's not coffee grinds going everywhere. And the grind is relatively consistent for the price point. But if you wanna establish that ritual kind of sense of grinding your own coffee, a hand grinder can be a really great option as well. However, waking up in the morning and wanting to hand grind coffee is something that I've personally never done. I know there are people out there, so I've got an option for that too. I really like the Time War C2 hand grinder. That one's about $100 Canadian, and it's a really great option if you're just getting into coffee and you want a hand grinder that's not breaking your budget, because at the end of the day, it does take manual labor. Let's get into our intermediate and aesthetically pleasing options. So here, maybe you've had some of these previous options before or things similar to it. We're gonna get into things that look really nice on your countertop. You wanna show them off. Just in general, they're gonna make you excited to brew coffee. First up, we got the Fellow Stag EKG. This is a beautiful, beautiful kettle. I have one right here. It's temperature controlled, so you can put it to 75 degrees if you're gonna make matcha and you wanna keep all those lovely natural enzymes perfectly working, or you can bring it up to like 93 degrees so that your light roasted coffee is gonna extract a little bit better. This is kind of the industry standard of kettles. It doesn't really go up from here, and there are comparable options from brands like Time War. Here in Canada, I think this one is around $215 right now. It is expensive. It's definitely a purchase that you're gonna wanna, save up a little bit for, or if you make good money, you can just get it. And to match that, we're gonna get the Time War mirror scale. And I have that one right here. This one's really nice because it does have that timer feature. It's about $90 Canadian, so it is a little bit more expensive. But the nice thing about it is that the feedback is very quick. So when you're pouring your water into your cup, it's telling you exactly to the 0.1 decimal how fast you're doing it, how long your brew is taking, and you don't need to have another piece of equipment like a phone out for a timer. And for me, the most aesthetically pleasing coffee brewer is the Origami. Just look at it. It is gorgeous. You can get these little rings so that it sits nice on top of your glassware. It's just so pretty. You can keep them out. They come in a bunch of different pastel colors. And finally, we're gonna get into the grinder. And again, grinders are expensive, so sometimes you do have to pay a little bit more for a really good quality grinder. And again, we're gonna go for 2 options. For the electric grinder, I'm gonna recommend the Fellow Ode. I've had one of these for about a year. I loved it. Static control on this coffee grinder is really nice. However, it's not capable of grinding for espresso, so if you are into espresso, consider maybe getting an upgraded burr set for the Fellow Ode. There's not very many beautiful coffee grinders like this one that perform as well. Right now, the Fellow Ode is about $350 Canadian, so again, it is more expensive. And for you hand grinder fiends out there, I know you're there. I know you're watching, you're like, what about me? We have the Comandante C40 for you. It can do both filter and espresso, and this is like the #1 choice for baristas when they're looking for a hand grinder. Comandante is kind of like the king of hand grinders. And what's really nice about this is that it runs off a stepped grinder system, has clicks every time you turn the dial, and each click is going to signify which point you're at. So you can communicate your clicks as a grind setting to other people who also have the same grinder. So if you're looking at a recipe online and somebody says, I'm using the Comandante at 13 clicks, you're gonna know what they're talking about. And finally, we're gonna get into the fancy stuff. This is kind of what I'm currently working on upgrading from what I have currently. So first up, we're gonna keep the kettle. I don't think that you need a kettle more expensive than this one. I don't think you need a kettle that's better than this one. This does everything and everything well. Next, for the scale, we're gonna go to an Asaya Lunar. So Asaya is, again, like one of the best coffee scales out there. This is really, really quick. About the same size as the Time More, but it's a way faster read. Brew guide on there, so it tells you how fast you're pouring. And there's just a lot of other technological advancements are kind of nerdy, weird, and not useful to the average consumer. But for somebody who's really into coffee and doesn't mind spending that extra money, it's a great option for them. Again, it's not really a needed update, but if you are a coffee nerd, it's one of those things that you're like, I want to get it. And now for brewers, you can always keep your Hario V60, or you can keep your Origami brewer, and they're gonna do just fine. But when we're getting further into coffee brewing, I think an AeroPress is one of those challenges that you kind of want to approach and think, how can I make this coffee taste really, really good? So you can seemingly push the boundaries and kind of always get more, but it's gonna take a lot of time and practice. But while it's not very expensive, it can be pretty expensive on your brain. So that's why I put it in the high tier class, because sometimes it can just take a lot out of you. I also really like the April Brewer. And the nice thing about it is that it's designed for light roasted coffee. When you're getting really deep into the coffee industry, I feel like more people are leaning to the lighter roasted, bright, acidic, fruity coffees, and having a brewer that's designed for those is really handy. It has little feet underneath the flat bottom paper so that the surface tension isn't holding the flow rate back. So the coffee is able to brew really, really quickly, and your times are gonna be really short, and your extraction is gonna be nice and high. It's not gonna have any astringency. It's a really simple way to brew, but it is gonna be designed for coffees that are lightly roasted and generally more expensive. We're gonna talk about my new baby. I finally got a Niche Zero. This is hailed as probably one of the best single dose coffee grinders one can buy. It is incredibly beautiful, like just from like the wood trim to the design to how they think about every single thing. Even how the dosing cup fits perfectly into a 58mm portafilter, like with no waste. Like it'll just, like you can just start here, flip it over, and it's in the portafilter. Like, it's amazing. It can grind for espresso, it can grind for filter, and the best thing about it is that it's extremely close to zero retention. So I can weigh like 18 grams of coffee, grind it right back into the dosing cup, and I don't need to weigh it again because I know it's gonna be exactly 18 grams. I paid about $1,000, including shipping, as well as import duties, and the coffee grinder itself. It wasn't a cheap grinder. I've been waiting a couple years to actually get this one. Yeah, so those are my 3 tiers of coffee gear. So this is my setup behind me. I'm using the Niche, the Stag, and the Time More scale. And I think a couple things are gonna upgrade and change as time goes on, but I love this setup for how clean it looks, but most of all, the functionality of the equipment. Yeah, but if you guys have questions, leave them a note down in the comments. I'll do my best to respond to them. I hope you guys enjoyed, and thank you as always for watching. We'll see you guys next time. Peace.